Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the latest edition of the Woke Bros. Of course, I'm your co-host, Big Waz, aka Wazzy Lambre, and I'm joined by my brother on the West Side, fresh off of my birthday extravaganza, man. Nando Vila, what's up, man? Welcome back.
Feeling good, the hangover is worn off, but it was
That's
it was
good.
great. It was a fun one. Little
That's good.
rooftop in Santa Monica, nice little view. It was good.
That's right. Right on the beach. Shout outs to our brother, our comrade, Daniel Bessner. He's about to be a new dad soon here in a few months. He was able to sneak out the crib and come through. Anna Kasparian of TYT, young legend that she is. All kinds of people from the political left, man, just pulled up to the birthday
Yeah,
party. That's how we do it on the left. Solidarity. You know what I'm saying? We
hell yeah,
party together.
hell yeah. That's how you change the world. You know?
Exactly, through partying together. On today's show, man, look, this story is a little bit old, but it happened last week after our show, and I just feel like we have to touch on it, and that's the China balloon and the just absolute shitstorm it caused on the right and the stupid responses from from liberals or whatever. Just a hilarious story from top to bottom, but also, sort of indicative of where the winds are blowing when it comes to the reactionary, hawkish elements of our power elite. I just wanted to touch on that story just to keep you guys updated if you weren't paying attention to it. But of course, we're taping this on Wednesday afternoon, the day after President Brandon Joe Biden's State of the Union address. He came out in pretty muscular fascist fashion. Nando, I thought it was interesting because it was like more campaign rally speech than State of the Union, which kind of shows you that Biden understands that he has to be in campaign mode from now until November of next year, which is just crazy to say. Like we're gonna be doing this shit in exactly a year from now, like a literal campaign, which is wild. But yeah, I thought it was interesting that he hit on Social Security and Medicare, which you and I both know is that's a winner, right? We know
Yeah,
Republicans have been wanting to gut this thing since the day that it was invented, and it's one of the most popular American. Both of them are two of the most popular, if not the two most popular American programs in existence, and has always been a sort of hot button topic. Like you go near it, you die electorally. Like people will have your head for their Medicare, they will have your head for their Social Security. I thought it was interesting that he sort of baited these guys into being ravenous, just foaming at the mouth idiots, even over something as simple as Social Security. Then he gets into his bread and butter. He gets into his I'm Joe Biden. I've been doing this since the 70s kind of stuff. Like,
yeah,
we're about to come build some roads. We're going to build some bridges. I'm going to come, we're going to come to break ground on these new projects like this old school, sort of bread and
yeah.
butter politician, Joe Biden, that he comes from. So I thought that was interesting, but mainly, honestly, Nando, for the spectacle of it, I was reminded of something that you told me after the midterms was just like, some of these Republicans are so absolutely fucking insane that they make like even the Democrats look decent by comparison.
Yeah. Well, especially a Democratic Party led by Joe Biden, right? Because he's such a normie. You know what I mean? That's what I struck me because the thing about Joe Biden is that he's the fucking president, but we never see him because he's old and he slips up, and they don't they
Yep.
don't they don't let him out there often.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? They don't let him fucking
He's like,
take the
put
girl
me
out
in,
to the dance.
coach.
Yeah, he's like put me in, coach, and they're like, no, goddamn way. Like you are you are a pinch runner. Just in very specific instances, but. So I forget about him. I just forget like what he is when he goes in full politician mode. And the thing about Biden is that he's a savvier politician than people give him credit for, mostly because of what you're talking about, that he came from an era before like all these people got all fucking smart about shit.
And
You know what I mean?
professionalized, yes. Before it
Yeah,
got corporatized and professionalized from consultants and that
totally.
consultant class who basically they run every single utterance that these people say in public. Like he comes from a school of Democrat that's before that corporate Clinton D triple C sort of takeover of the party.
Yeah, and it like the irony is that these professionals who are like supposed to be, what they do is by definition remove you from the populace. You know what I mean? Like you're talking
Yep.
at them. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You're not you're like you're
Focus
treating them
grouped
like
to death. All of
yeah,
your
exactly.
messaging. Yeah. Hmm.
And Biden just does kind of have that ability to be like, I was talking to some guy the other day, and he was telling me like, you know, when I,
The
he's like,
fact that he still calls people Jack.
yeah, and that shit, like, he pulls that off because all the other politicians do that. They can't pull it off because
It's
it's so
not true.
obviously
It's
fake. Yeah,
condescension. Yeah.
it's
Hmm.
condescension, and he's just like he's actually like, yeah, this probably did happen to him. I believe it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so there's that. I mean, there's his kind of his campaign savviness as a politician. Someone tweeted out, and I agree with it 100%. Is that one of the reasons why the Democrats don't have like a quote unquote bench, you know what I mean? And why someone like Kamala is like comically unpopular, and all the Democrats are freaking out and want to replace her. The problem is they can't replace her with anyone because they just don't have anyone else, is because all of these younger Democrats are essentially too online and too like too at the forefront of whatever like discourse things are. Like you read some tweets from some of these younger politicians, and like they just don't make any sense. They don't have that kind of plain spokenness. And Biden, the tweet said that the reason why Biden is so appealing to so many people and why he's kind of resilient in these things is because he's exactly like three steps behind the times, but in
Hmm.
a charming kind of non-offensive way. You know what I mean? He's just like trying to figure it out. Like he's not
Yeah.
like,
No.
I love the
100%.
blacks and the gays
And,
and the
and I think
but I
what you're
don't know that I'm
speaking
supposed to
to,
call them. You
and I
know what I
think
mean?
exactly 100%. And I think what you're speaking to is what got us so excited about John Fetterman is this idea that he doesn't come off as focus grouped into
Yeah,
oblivion. He doesn't come off with this annoying, come from academia, come from the nonprofits, come from, the corporate class, that nasty, annoying sheen. He doesn't have that stink on him. Yeah, these young guys, they are just focus grouped and online to death. I was just thinking about it too. I was like, could you imagine like Pete Buttigieg in like a union hall? Or
yeah, yeah,
like for
yeah,
real though, like actually hanging out with those
yeah.
kinds of people, you know, actually hanging out with, American
Or
Legion at
John
one of those
Ossoff,
spots
or
with
any of
like
these guys. You
no
know,
shot, no
like they just
shot.
don't feel like they
It's
feel
just
like
no shot.
robots. They feel like
And you know what? I like Warnock. I like that he's black and like he's like even though he's really educated and all that, he at least seems kind of like a normal black person.
yeah,
Do you feel me? And I think being southern really helps. I don't think like a Hawk Jeffries, like bro, no, nobody's going for that, bruh. Nobody's going for Hawk Jeffries if he wants to someday be like, oh, I'm gonna supplant Schumer as this guy in the Senate from New York. Like, bruh, nobody wants
yeah.
you nationally. And so you wonder what they do. And that's the main thing from watching it, Nando, is like, man, Biden is their best shot.
It's crazy.
And
Not even
it's not
close.
even
It's not even close.
close.
He's
It's
just he's
not
just
even
200 years old, and
close.
like his brain is failing him, but even with that, he's just far and away better than at like the politics, like at the
Mhm.
actual like uh
Yeah. Not that he has
yeah,
good politics. God knows we don't really love Joe Biden's politics, but like the game, the job of being a public figure slash politician, he's just so much better than it. than who they got. And then the Kamala Harris thing, the way they throwing this woman under the bus, in all of those like Politico, where they start their whisper campaigns, the way they are just absolutely trashing Kamala Harris, who they anointed. Nobody asked for this. They picked her and her 3% freaking polling and was like, well, she checks off the black,
Yeah.
the Asian, the woman part. She's pretty attractive. Like, yeah, she checks off these boxes, paying no attention to just how much of a train wreck her actual campaign was, how much of a train wreck she is as a public speaker, and just has no charisma whatsoever. Then now that they've started their whisper campaign, like, bro, she hasn't stepped up to the plate. Bro, she stunk up the joint in the
Yeah.
primary. It's not like she was, second or third, and it was just like, oh, Kamala almost had it. It's like you guys basically hand selected her to be the second most popular Democrat just by default from her job by the time 2024 came, and now you're saying
Yeah.
it's a disaster.
It's just funny that, I mean, so part of me thinks that Biden picked her because she was so terrible, you know? Yeah, because he
And not a
knew
threat. Yeah.
that. I mean, maybe he's not that smart, but the real Machiavellian move would be to pick someone terrible as your VP. This was like, by the way, this was conventional wisdom. You did this back in the day. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't want someone overshadowing you. You didn't want
Yeah.
someone, especially
No.
Biden knowing that he's so fucking old that it was just inevitably, even during the
Mhm.
first, in his first run, there was like talk like, what if he committed to only doing one term? And I was like, get the fuck out of here. No one does that. Just get the fuck out of here. He wants to be the fucking president, and so like he
Yeah.
knew that if he picked some like stud, someone amazing that people fucking loved, there would be a drumbeat right now to replace him with the VP. But because she's so fucking awful, no one's doing that.
Yeah, and by the way, it wouldn't be hard to get the money behind this vice president if they were any good. Like the money would get behind it, the establishment. But then you wonder, Nando, if they would or could actually do this. When you look at somebody like Feinstein here in California, where it's just like, how is that allowed to just like how in the world is that allowed to just continue in the way that it's continued? So you wonder, but yeah, like Kamala's just been a complete lightweight, and yeah, Joe Biden did his job, which is to explain to people like, I'm the best you got. I'm the best option, especially if these Republicans are just going to continue to be as rabid as they are. I am the most sane person that exists, and so yeah, I think he did that job with that. I think back in the days, and Nando, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Like the State of the Union address was like where the president would like calm the
Yeah,
nation down about the job that he may or may not be doing well. Whereas this was just straight up a
totally.
campaign speech, straight up and down. And it's probably warranted when you consider the state of his regime and all the things that they've been through. And if unless you have anything else to add, I
Well,
do want to
no, I
move
do
on to the
have one
China
thing to
balloon.
add. Trump was live tweeting
Yeah, go
the
ahead.
State of the Union. Come on,
Oh
how could you
yes.
leave this out, dude? We don't have Trump on Twitter no more, which is a real fucking shame. But he was on Truth Social, and I just decided, let me see what, because I saw like some tweets about it, and he was weirdly like he was tweeting about it like it was like he was watching a football game. And you know what? The feeling that I had watching him. Like watching his tweets reacting to the State of the Union was that he actually likes Biden. Like, look at this tweet. Look at this tweet from Trump. Like he likes him. Like everyone likes Biden. That's the thing is like no one when when these Republicans are like this is the most awful.
Or at least nobody
Yeah, no one
hates
really
him.
hates him. Let me find it. Da, da, da. Da-da-da-da-da. Okay, here's his tweet. Here's his tweet. Look, he worked hard tonight. It's not a natural thing for him. It never was. It never will be. But you've got to give him credit for trying. I disagree with with him on most of his policies, but he put into words what he felt, and he ended up the evening far stronger than he began. Give him credit for that. Many things weren't mentioned that should have been, but that's for another time. I've done a little clip. Perhaps you'd like to watch it. Good night, everybody, and God bless America. So that was like his reaction to Biden. Like by Trump standards, he's being like, he's being nice to him. He likes him.
It's
Okay.
pathetic. It's
Yeah.
fucking
Okay. Nancy Pelosi
yes.
and
What what tweet about?
so
Okay,
Nancy
what else we got?
Pelosi
Okay,
and
let's
Liz
go.
Warren, on the other hand, he does not like them. He does not like
Oh
them.
my
This is what he said about Nancy Pelosi. He goes, Kevin McCarthy is looking really good. His demeanor is perfect. He's not a crazed lunatic like Nancy Pelosi that illegally rips up State of the Union speeches, and he's more and more fitting beautifully into the role as Speaker of the House. And then his tweet about Liz Warren, just nothing else. Pocahontas is really going wild tonight. She almost has to be constrained. The only thing that will do it is the straitjacket.
Dude,
Oh,
so
man.
when you sent me the screen capture of his truth tweet or whatever, what do they call truth socials? Truths, right? Of one of his truths. Um, I'm like, Pocahontas, like, is he talking about Nikki Haley? Like, I forgot about Liz Warren and the whole lying about being of Native American descent. And I'm just like, yo, this guy, say what you will about him, but his instinct for playing the dozens or cracking jokes or bullying or whatever you want to call it, it's just second to none. It's just absolutely second to none. And it just reminds me of my upbringing in New York. Like, yes, I could hear somebody referring to Liz Warren as Pocahontas from now and forever. And like, it's just such like typical Northeast humor. And just cutting and
Yeah.
biting is so ridiculous. It's what his ultimate gift is. And it's crazy. But yeah, it like you just couldn't imagine the things that he said about Joe Biden, him saying something like that about Obama after a speech. Like he just would never do that.
No.
He just has a whatever. He just has a soft spot for crazy Uncle Joe, Sleepy Joe. Which yeah, if you guys haven't checked out the State of the Union, go check it out. And yeah, let's get to the China balloon because we've mentioned it a decent amount of times here on the show, but like, you know, these you when you think about the national security quote unquote apparatus that exists, or the blob, or whatever you call the entrenched bureaucratic structure of the American state, these guys understand that like there's no real justification for their existence as it currently is. $1 trillion a year per year on their budget, right? That's what we mean by as it exists right now. And all the people that are eating and drinking off of that $1 trillion government tit. Like they have to justify that existence with something. Who are you fighting? Who are you saving us from? Who are you protecting us from? Who are you like what is the point of this shit? When nobody's military comes close to spending size and scale, what is the point of doing this year after year? Why are we doing this? So constantly they get their cronies in the media and in the government to peddle, you know, fearful shit about places like Russia, you know, during the Cold War. And then after that, we had to do, you know, the terrorism crock that lasted 20 years. And then now it's China, right?
Yeah.
China is the big bad boogeyman that's coming to save, that's coming to hurt us all. Which again, and I realize I'm being long winded here. Like back when we were fighting the Soviets, it was this idea that they were gonna, which people need to understand this. Like it was never said explicitly, but essentially we're fighting all these wars because the Soviets are going to turn all these places commie, which then all these places are going to become, they're going to run their economics as state run. And so therefore American businesses can't go into their countries and make money. That's the literal reason for being of the Cold War. This idea that
Yeah.
places can't turn commie because American business interests won't be able to go places abroad and extract resources from places that aren't America. That's literally the framework of why we did it. When they sell it to us in the public, it's like, oh, these people don't like blue jeans and this, and they're going to take our freedoms away and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But the reality is, when a country becomes allegedly communistic and state run, it's that outside interests don't get to extract value from whatever is valuable within that nation. or state, right? Like that's the whole issue that we have with communism. That's it. It's that our business interests, corporate interests, our overlords can't go out and extract value outside of our own country. That's it. They
Yeah.
can't go out and do business, right? And so when you realize that was the reason for the Cold War, and like China is like, we are China. We're already making money there. We're already like, our economies are so tied in inextricably to China. Like, what are we fighting China over? And like, what is this war even about? So that's what I want folks to think about whenever you're watching this crock on TV or you hear a politician or somebody say, China's gonna come get us. And do what? And do what? And then the number one thing that I need folks to understand too about this, about some quote unquote war with China, we couldn't beat the Taliban.
Yeah. Yeah.
We couldn't beat the Taliban. We did
Yeah.
not beat the Taliban. The fucking Taliban. A bunch of dudes in pickup trucks in
Yeah.
Afghanistan, old ass pickup trucks with some AKs and whatnot. We couldn't beat them. When you compare the resources at those guys' disposal as compared to us, we could not displace the Taliban. We're gonna go up against the Chinese Communist Party. It's the height of lunacy, Nando. And enter this stupid balloon where people are gonna try to get you to think that China's spying on us because China needs this decrepit balloon to spy on us on our shorelines. Like they don't have Google Maps. It's just like, what are we doing with this, dude?
I mean, and I don't. I mean, I, they probably worse. It probably is a spy
Maybe.
balloon. Like, yeah, and but who cares? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's it.
Like that's the thing is like, they're all spying on each other all the time. Like the Chinese know that we're spying on them, and we know that they're spying on us, and that's just fucking par for the course. Like that was the same thing in the Cold War during the Soviet Union. They knew everything that was going on
No.
in there. You know what I mean? It's not. It's almost like a mutually assured surveillance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's kind of the prevailing thing. Um, and what you say about China, it's like the Cold War with China has really started, conveniently after the war on terror lost its juice, but also when things like, for example, China closed the door to Hollywood. China closed the door to Hollywood. They're like,
Yeah.
no,
We
we
make our
know
own
that
movies. We
Avatar.
know how to
Yeah,
entertain our
yeah,
people. We don't need your shit
yeah.
anymore.
We don't need your shit. And that's or when all of a sudden it started, getting ahead in 5G and things like that. So like you're 100% right that underneath it all is they're just mad about that we don't get to make money off of the Chinese no more. But yeah, I mean the balloon was hilarious because people these days in an era when politics is stopped and an era when nothing really kind of happens, at least like in America, right? Like in the,
Yeah.
obviously shit happened in Ukraine and, shit happens all over the world. But like in America, everything is kind of static. And we're just kind of in this stuck phase. People are desperate for some fun fucking action, dude. They want some action. They want to feel like back in the day, like the Cuban Missile, like, shit was happening. Shit was happening. They like history was happening. And here we're just kind of stuck in this perpetual loop. And, the balloon comes along and it's obviously fucking inoffensive and who gives a shit? And like, what are they actually spying on? Oh, Montana, what the fuck? Who gives a shit? But they just want they want to cosplay as like, oh, it's like, well, sir, will the president will the president react to this threat, sir? Like what is he gonna do? And then they fucking send the fighter jet to blow up the balloon, and they can act all tough, and then all the conservatives are posting pictures of their AR-15s and like, I will personally shoot down this balloon. And it's like, get the fuck out of here. You guys are just cosplaying your own little bullshit movie that no one gives a shit about. Like, get out of here. This is
Yeah, it's hilarious. And and I want to get out of here on this so that people understand what the hell we be talking about, right? You pointed out like there was the right wing sort of crazy hawkish response, and the libs, their response isn't what me and Nando just explained to you, that if you think Vietnam was a disaster, you think the war in Iraq and Afghanistan were disasters, you have no earthly fucking idea how disastrous an actual war with actual China would be. It would be a complete and utter failure and disaster. There's no other way to put it, right? But that's not what the liberals are going to tell you. Because guess what? Quiet is kept. They are just as in line and lockstep with the hawkish ideas and mentality that come out of DC national security establishment. So what do they come out and say, Nando? It happened 3 times during Trump. That's their
Yeah.
response to
Like
right
actually,
wing,
yeah.
yes, right wing frothing at the mouth craziness. It's not, yo, folks, calm down. Perpetuating the idea that a war with China would be prudent or would benefit the American people is dangerous and stupid, and we should be doing everything we can to avoid something like that. It'd be catastrophic. Instead of that, the liberal response is, well, actually, it happened 3 times during Trump. And that's all you need to know about this shit. The China balloon. It's a fucking joke. Um we can't go to war against China. We get our asses kicked.
Dude, they already
Um
kicked our ass in Korea. Like, no one knows about this. The Korean War wasn't against just Koreans. Like, we got to the border with China, and China was like, fuck this, and they invaded from the north, and they fucking spanked the U.S. around, pushed them all the way back to the 38th parallel. Like, the 38th parallel is there now because that's where the stalemate happened after the Chinese drove them back all the way from the Chinese border. Like, these are wily people, man. They were fighting for a long time, massive civil wars and shit like that. Like, they're hardened fucking dudes. You don't want to fuck with them. And plus, there's over 1 billion more of them than there are of us.
let's just put this China thing to bed. They wouldn't want to invade us either, right? Like they don't want to stop the great thing that they got. CCP, COVID has kind of put a dent in what they were trying, like their stronghold, in that like there's been so much more dissent and uprising because of how they've handled COVID over there. But like, bruh, this would completely derail their operations. Like it just doesn't make sense for anybody. And so I just like everybody who's listening to keep that in
Yeah.
mind all the time. Anyway, that's our show for today. Make sure you become a Patreon at patreon.com/count the dings for a cup of Starbucks per month. Support the content we're doing up here. Support every single other Count the Dings offering we got. We'll see you guys next week. Peace out.